Too sweet! Hi, welcome to JD Sports. I'm Jared Hood. That's the way you can find our personal Twitters at the show's Twitter page, which is @_JD Sports. Thank you for watching on YouTube if you are. If you are not, how do you catch us on SoundCloud?
Yo, hit that soundcloud.com/JD Sports Show.
Okay, so probably the easier and better way, honestly, is if you do it through SoundCloud. That's how I've been taking it lately.
It's instantaneous. You can listen to it when you want. You can, just enjoy it as a normal person in podcast format. You don't got to worry about videos and, having to watch something. You just listen and keep doing your own thing.
We do appreciate the YouTube volume. If you are
definitely
watching YouTube,
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I just don't like the YouTube aspect of it. And that's more so YouTube, but, that's different.
So we have a lot to get into this week.
Do we? Because it felt dry to me.
Before we get into sports, though, it is no secret you and I are big music fans. I am a pretty big Mobb Deep fan. Prodigy of Mobb Deep passed away. Obviously, Shook Ones is probably the most popular of their songs that people would know. So, he was only 19, as he said in the song, when they wrote that, which is one of the best hip-hop songs of all time. But they're one of the best hip-hop altogether, just hip-hop. They're one of the best parts of hip-hop ever, Mobb Deep. So, shout out to Prodigy. As a big music fan and as music fans,
definitely.
I try to not to let those things fly under the radar, especially hip-hop, which you and I are very big hip-hop fans.
Especially of that age. And,
yes. And of that era. That's the era of hip-hop that I listen to. I mean, I like some newer stuff, and I like some stuff even right before that, but if you're talking that era of hip hop, I mean,
he's right there.
Mobb Deep is ingrained into the era of hip hop that I personally listen to, which is my favorite personal part of music. So, to bring a bright side of music, I guess, learned over the weekend.
I was gonna say I have another dark side.
I was gonna say, what's your dark side?
I was gonna say also rest in peace. This coming weekend will be the 8th anniversary of Michael Jackson's passing, the GOAT, the real actual GOAT of all time. So just shout out to that situation.
To Michael and Dwight, that's
you already know I know.
So
8-year anniversary. So shout out to them. Shout out to Prodigy.
Just like
crazy, too many talents out here going.
Just like Michael is to you, Hove is to me. And over the weekend, the bright side of music I was going to point out is we're getting 13th Hove's 13th studio album coming June 30th. So get that fo.
So it's confirmed?
Fo is what it's called, with the two things, 4. Even though he has nothing to do with my Sixers in the 80s with the fo. I am going to say fo. It's confirmed. June 30th.
Wait, is that the actual title though?
4 semicolon 44 is the name of it.
Okay.
I don't know if it's Blueprint 4. I don't know if it's Volume 4, the Dynasty 4. I don't know if it's just I've had 3 kids and maybe I thought I should have 4. I don't know what the 444 stands for. I just know that Jay-Z is coming out with a album.
Sticking on Blueprint.
I think it's going to be Blueprint 4. I mean, as a Jay-Z
can it be more like
stan,
Blueprint 1?
as you would call.
Can it be more like Blueprint?
Oh, my favorite Hove album of all time, hopefully. I mean, the song that he released it on Father's Day. It's actually named Andis, which is his father's name, and it's about the clip that he released of the song was actually him dedicating a small part to his father, which I thought was pretty cool. Just the day after he becomes a father, and the rumors were after the twins were born, he was going to eventually release this album and start with this new music. So, as a Jay-Z fan, the exciting news after we just recognized 2 very sad parts of music, I am excited that, June 30th, try to go out there if you don't have Tidal and find a way to get this Jay-Z album. We all know I'll be ready that Friday morning.
12:01
I'll probably stay up till midnight just for that thing to drop and listen to it a couple times.
12:01 a.m.
We are a sports show, so moving on from music.
I feel like there's more music going on than sports.
There's a lot of music going on we can keep getting into. But moving on from music to sports. Before we get into the more recognizable parts of sports, you're going to laugh. I know I watch all kinds of sports and I recognize every kind of aspect of sports. The WNBA had a pretty big weekend. I knew he was going to laugh when I said that.
I know what you're talking about.
We could go into about how my favorite WNBA player and her team, Skylar Diggins, lost in Washington on Sunday. We could talk about that. Her Dallas team. We could go into the... No? Okay, you want to talk about how Diana Taurasi became the leading scorer in the history of the WNBA. on Sunday. We're not going to spend much time on it, obviously. I just wanted to shout out to her.
You have to.
Anytime I could say Skylar Diggins on air, I mean, my favorite WNBA player, I can...
Yeah, I feel it. I mean, I won't take anything away from what
What Diana Taurasi did is it's a big deal for
definitely.
her. And now there's only 10 years of,
I was gonna say
of basketball for her to become. I get that.
I wasn't gonna be that guy. I was gonna say, well, there's only so many years.
There is. There's only 10 years.
Right.
And so she's only had players who played for 6 years.
And she came into the league with the expectation of, well,
being the best ever.
Maybe, I wouldn't even say that, but she was expected to be this great scorer and this great shooter. But I don't know if she was projected to be the best shooter ever. But it happened.
Lisa Leslie was 28 when the WNBA started, so she didn't get to start when she was 23, 24 years old. The way Diana Taurasi did. I mean, the best players that came before her didn't start until middle of their peak, more or less after their peak, where she was there. That was the second year of the WNBA was her rookie year. You know what I mean? Where she was the first one who was a full blown player from beginning to the end.
And I don't know for a fact, but I feel like she's more so known for just being a scorer, being a shooter, and like you said, Lisa Leslie.
All around basketball player.
Right,
yes.
and dunking and that type of thing.
There's been better ball handlers than Diana Taurasi. There's been better defensive players. Like, I'm not sitting, but it doesn't make her the greatest player ever. It's just she has become the highest scorer in the history of the WNBA. I think that's a pretty cool thing and a pretty big deal for their side of basketball.
Yeah. Even for 10 years, you're still above a lot of players.
And she's a recognizable name, and she's something that, the WNBA, I don't even think it will ever be on like the MLS side of things where it's even that popular, but I do think the WNBA has a little bit of traction, and part of the attraction of their traction would be that.
I'm very surprised it's still here.
I see what you're saying, but on the other side of it, you have names like Skylar Diggins and Diana Taurasi. I mean, Skylar Diggins, I know, look.
And Diana Taurasi ain't no spring chicken out here. So.
I got you. And Skylar Diggins is probably the only recognizable name for most people outside of it. I do understand that. And there is up and down. We can go through many of players. Kelsey Plum would be my second favorite WNBA player. Most people don't know who that is, but she was just drafted this year out of Washington, and she's with San Antonio this year. But I understand those names aren't recognizable, and she was the number 1 overall pick going into last year. So I do understand the WNBA is not going to be some big attraction coming in the future, but there is some kind of market there for it. And at the end of the day, whether there's fans watching it or not, they are out there playing. There is stats being held, and them doing the things they are doing in it when it comes to the actual playing the basketball is impressive.
Yeah.
Moving on to the NBA in and of itself, because that was going to obviously just be a quick tidbit. Just want to shout it out to her.
Yeah, definitely.
When we first started this show, the Sixers were about as low as you can get as a franchise.
Still
Everybody was knocking on them and dropping on them, and you're a big advocate against anything Philadelphia. So anytime you can jump on the Sixers, you do. The entire show,
still do that, but
our entire show started based off of a conversation at a bar once between you and I, just going back and forth about the process. And even though I wasn't fully 110% bought in on the process,
he's a Philadelphia native, and therefore he's 110% bought in on the process.
I saw the upside of it, so I was trying to at least enlighten you on the other side of what the process could do.
120% in actual.
As of this show starting, do you remember the first thing I ever said about how I felt about the Sixers at the time? Remember my famous saying? Do you remember my favorite saying? 2 years away from being 2 years away.
Is that about 6 and 6? And
how long we've been doing this show?
2 years.
And they are now 2 years away.
About 5 more years.
I know you're not going to agree with me on any of this, but
I will not.
The Sixers.
This is that ridiculous. Oh my God! Here we go.
Getting the first overall pick, trading for the first overall pick.
Folks.
Not trading a ton for that first overall pick. Just trading this year's third pick and next year's first pick from the Lakers, Sacramento, whoever has the worst one, for what most people are saying Fultz.
Yeah.
This will be the completion of the process. This will be the final steps to start moving forward. We are not now 2 years away from being 2 years away. We are now 2 years in. So now the Sixers are only
like 4
years away. I was saying 2 years away from being 2 years away, and now they're only 2 years away in my eyes.
Stop. When you got a bunch of young kids that are 1 year, 2 year, actual playing time, let's talk about actual playing time. When you're about 1, 2 years in, when you got all these players, you're more so like another 4 or 5 more years in. So stop, relax, calm down, Philly, calm down. Relax.
I think they're 2 years away from making it to the playoffs and starting to actually compete.
And then you realize you run into a LeBron game, you're going to blow it up? Again? You going to blow it up again?
We're going to get into LeBron because he might go to your franchise, which I know you'll be a huge fan of. We'll definitely discuss that in a second. But let's just say LeBron does stay in the East for those 4 years, okay, that you're talking about. I think the Sixers will be a team right there with Boston that is competing.
False. So you're saying they're going to be the third, second, first? They're going to be the top 3? Really?
I think they'll be in the top 4 of the East, yeah.
Within how many years?
Within 3 years. So I think they're 2 years away from being a top 3 team in the East. I think 2 years from now you have this season, the next season, and in that next season I think is when they are.
On what basis? Hope.
And I think
on
that's
hope?
when they are a 3. On what basis? No, off of
hope?
what I saw.
On hope.
Well,
on hope.
So it doesn't matter what I say.
No, because
obviously.
It is on hope.
Okay.
When you got a bunch of 20, 21, 22-year-olds, 19-year-olds, that's your basis, that they're going to be top 3, 4 in the conference? Really? On what basis? On what actual basis? Try to justify it.
LeBron's 32 years old and he has more skill than
LeBron.
anyone. So I'm not really worried about age. I'm looking at skill. Like if we were going off of that, then we would think LeBron wouldn't be any good right now because MJ wasn't any good at this age. Pippen wasn't any good at this age. Kareem wasn't any good at this age. I know what you were, but I'm to the opposite side of players who aren't good at this age. When you go to how young they are, like you're going off of age. I'm going to go off of talent, and the reason I have hope is because the 20 games that Embiid did play, he actually won Rookie of the Year in, or him or Starchick, which is crazy to think. That 20 games, all he played was 20 games, and he's considered the Rookie of the Year. That's insane.
That's because apparently there's no rule to cut him off.
Simmons hasn't touched the floor. Fultz obviously is, if they have to draft him first for him to be a Sixer, but you would think, so him...
You would think he would touch the floor,
so
but
you would
judging
think,
off y'all history, he probably won't.
I personally, and you know how I felt about them sitting them last year. I was not a fan of it. But the reason they sat them is because they were playing too well. They were winning too many games when Embiid was on the floor. They were winning too much. They had a chance. They were 1 game out of the AC. They were actually going to be a playoff team in the East last year with all of this non-talent you're talking about. And I get it, the East isn't great, but my point is they're competing in the East, and that's who I think they're going to be a top 4 team in 2 years from now. Right? So my point is that this year they were going to be an 8th seed without any talent, according to you. And
facts.
My point is now you're going to have your best player Simmons actually touch the floor next year. Embiid, your second best player, touch the floor for more than 20 games next year. Fultz has to learn obviously the pace of play. Covington is the only starter I don't see there in 3 years from now. And that's where you actually open it up into, and I don't think they get a Paul George or a Jimmy Butler, but the big names right now are Paul George and Jimmy Butler. So you open up to you trade for somebody like a Paul George or Jimmy Butler, and you have so many first-round picks still left coming up in the next 3 years. You have such a deep bench with all of these top 10 picks that are now bench players. You have Julio Okafor, who, no, he doesn't play any defense, but he's highly coveted by teams like the Celtics and Bulls, which have both offered a lot for him over the last 6 months. So
and a whole lot of hope and what ifs.
But you have a lot of assets and you have a lot of talent now, finally, and that's the point of the process. Look, I don't disagree when everyone was against the process back 5, 6, 7 years ago when it was first started, 5 years ago when everything started to get blown up. But this was the point of it, for you to have all these assets and all this talent all at one time and all on rookie contracts. So now they have all this X amount of money, which, yes, you're going to have to pay Embiid, you're going to have to pay Simmons, you're going to have to pay Fultz. Those 3 alone are going to take up a good portion of your pie chart, and you're going to have to figure out the rest around it. Well, that's the plus side of this. So
unless they want to go compete and be with a real franchise,
that's
respectable.
Nerlens Noel, you didn't know if he wanted to stay or not, but they got rid of him. You obviously know Julio Okafor. He doesn't want to be a Sixer, and the Sixers don't want him. But it seems like Simmons and Embiid have fully bought in on the process. Look, Embiid wants to literally be called the process, so I feel like he's bought in. I don't think that's an act. And Simmons, yes, it's just reports and things that I hear from people, but he spends all of his free time with Embiid, who is fully bought in. Fultz apparently falls right in line with them, and he's been hanging out with them ever since he started his pre-draft workouts. And I know him and Embiid have been friends going back for a couple of years. So that just adds to it. I don't know if he's going to be someone who's bought in, but if you have Simmons and Embiid bought in, and then you get Fultz bought in, those three alone are top talent. They're all number one picks. I mean, two of them are number one overall picks, and the other one went third overall, who was considered the best part of that draft. It's just he had a leg injury, and that's the only reason he wasn't picked first overall that year, they say. So you have three guys who are potential number one overall picks. I mean, look, name another team in the NBA outside of the Warriors that have three guys that would go first overall in any draft. That is something special to sit down and think about. Plus you have Starczyk, he's not Porzingis, but he's probably the second or third best player from overseas right now in the NBA. Obviously, Dirk's a little older, but Dirk's the greatest of all time. But I mean, he comparative of those.
So that whole little 3-minute spiel that you just went on, all I heard was hope.
And that's fine. That's completely okay. I don't need you to hear anything else.
That's 1,000% realistic.
For me,
it's not unrealistic for
I
me
was
to just
watching
say,
them
I hear
win.
hope.
I was watching them win games with this lack of talent you keep telling me about. I was watching them actually win games last year, and all they did was go out and get better this offseason so far. Plus, they still have 4 picks in the next 3 years that are first rounders, and all they did was give this year's third overall pick and next year's either Lakers pick or Sacramento pick, whoever picks later. Which I thought was a good part on the Celtics, because not only did you stockpile the third pick this year, which, look, if you're not going to go for Fultz, then obviously why not trade the first pick, because everyone thinks Fultz is going to be the first pick. Fultz, if you draft him, what do you do with Isaiah Thomas? The Celtics don't want that problem. They look at Isaiah as their guy down the future. Makes sense. They want to go after LeBron now, so they get the third pick. You look at a guy like Tatum or a guy like Jackson or a guy like Fox who can step in a different position and start for you right away instead of Fultz, who would sit behind Isaiah.
You lost me about 5 minutes ago.
I think it was a good trade for both sides. I think people are crazy for clowning the Celtics the way they are over this, because I thought it was a good move for the Celtics. If you're not going to try to get somebody to, if you're not going to move Isaiah, it's a good move for them to not go after Fultz, the number one pick, and to go after a guy who can help you today instead of somebody who's going to sit behind your starting point guard. The biggest thing is,
Jesus Christ.
You don't care about the draft. You hate the draft. You hate this time of year. So I know none of this registers to you, nor does it matter to you.
I'm just amazed that you just went on a 5-minute spiel about how you think they're going to be great on hope. Wow.
Well, I'm doing it off of what I saw, the talent-wise, and off of what I've seen Fultz do in college, so hopefully they can get together.
Hopefully. Right. You're right. Hopefully. Like I said, hope.
I don't think it's going to be this year or next year. I think it's 2 years away. I think they are 2 years away. So in 2 years. You don't think they can stockpile any more talent? So you think it's what they got is what they got, and they're always just gonna be a bottom feeder? You don't think any? Wow, that's
yes.
You were the only person I know that says it. Not that I know all the basketball experts, which only God's an expert. All the top basketball people, everybody I know, they're all like, man, those Sixers are actually putting together a little bit of talent. You're still the only person that are like. It sounds more like hate over
sounds
actual.
Like realistic. Because I know how the 76ers organization has worked, and I know how their talent has come and gone, and I know how more likely than not, most of what you just said, most of those people outside of maybe 2, and you're hoping for the third to jump on, are going to leave anyway. So they're going to keep being this lottery team repeatedly.
Like I said, I think 4 of their 5 guys will be there in 3 years.
When you're a lottery team, 4
of their 5 starters will be there in 3 years.
When you're a lottery team for the past 15 years, you like. That doesn't change just magically just because, we have just a little bit of hope that it's going to change.
They've only been a lottery team for the last 6.
They might as well have been more for the last 10. Okay, excuse me, I said 10 instead of 6. I'm so wrong and sorry for that. 6 years is so much better than 10.
Well, in the last 20 years, they made the playoffs 9.
Oh, my God. Leave
but it's not as bad as your point now. I mean, you're making it sound like they're just always a top 5 or bottom 5 worst team. It's not.
They have been for the past decade, mostly.
Time for 6 years. They were 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals 6 years ago.
And they blew that up.
Yeah, and I didn't like it at the time.
So who's to say that's not going to happen again?
Because the point of them blowing it up was to get younger and do exactly what they're doing.
Jared. Okay, Philly. I hear you.
Yeah, I don't see them trading all these guys to become bad for 7 more years and do it all over again. It's just kind of that wouldn't make sense for them to ever start the process in the first place, would it? Okay, so usually that's not how sports work, and I've never seen a franchise do what your model is saying they're going to do.
I didn't say they won't blow it up. I said...
Well, you said they're going to just do the same thing they just did. That would be blowing it all up and restarting.
I didn't say that. I just said that you're hoping, what you just said, You think two of them people have bought into your little system, and they're all about being in Philly.
So if the Sixers
and you're
make the
hoping
playoffs
for number 3. Okay, so then everybody else just says,
I'm asking you because we're going to do our show hopefully for 20 more years, right?
And hopefully we don't talk about this for 20 more seconds.
But what I'm saying is if the Sixers make the playoffs for 5, I'm looking at them just make the playoffs because you don't think they're going to make the playoffs for a year, more or less. So if they can make the playoffs 5 straight years, right?
As an 8 seed, does that matter, championship or bust?
I want championship or bust, but you're the one saying you think they're just going to be a bottom feeder for the next how long? Do you think?
When I say bottom feeder, I say as in the very bottom through probably about. Well, you just said they were top 4. They're definitely damn sure not a top 4 team. And
I think 3 years from now, 3 seasons, not next season. The season after. I think the season after that they will be a top 4 team in the East.
So what is not a bottom feeder to you? Making the playoffs isn't a bottom feeder?
I'm asking you. Okay, but you're the one who said they're going to be a bottom feeder. So I'm asking you, what are you defining it as? Because I want to make like some kind of where I can come on this show and start this show every time.
So you can say I told you. Okay.
Yes.
So you got the AC, you got the 7. I'll give you 6 through 8, maybe. So
you want them to make 5 or higher? 5 or higher, 5 straight years. I think they can do it. Starting 2 years from now, not this year or the year after, the 3rd season. I think they can get a 5 seed or higher for 5 straight years after that. I really do.
Okay. You don't think, you hope.
No, I really think they could. Simmons is a very high generational talent. Embiid can be a game changer. His thing has got to be health.
I heard that about 10 minutes
Embiid's going to be health. And Fultz, look.
I heard that about 10 minutes ago.
Fultz doesn't make everyone better the way Ball makes everyone better, but I think Fultz has more of an all-around offensive game. His defense kind of lacks a little bit, but Ball's defense isn't all that great.
A whole lot of hope out here.
I knew you weren't going to be a fan of it anyways, and I didn't really... That didn't bother me. But, anyways.
Because it never makes sense to me.
So,
take the Philadelphia name out of it, and it never makes sense to me.
Boston, I like what they did. They moved back. They're going to get a position. Because I'm usually somebody who says draft player, not position. Boston, if they had the first overall pick, if you draft player, you got to go Fultz. But if you go Fultz, what do you do with Isaiah? So they said, let's screw this. Let's get 2 top 5 picks over the next couple years for this 1 first overall pick. It was a good idea on their part. That's what they did. They made themselves... Look, I don't know how good or how long Isaiah is going to be around for. But if you can keep some kind of core together, you can make yourself that team that's right there when LeBron either does go to LA or LeBron retires in general. Speaking of LA, we'll get to LeBron in a second, and we'll talk about all that. Your Lakers are in the midst of so many things, and I don't even think they're trying to be in the midst of so many things.
It'll be irrelevant, yeah.
Maybe, but the draft's Thursday. So, Paul George told Indiana he's going to be a free agent. He's not going to come back to Indiana after this season. So, basically, he was giving them the heads up that if they would like to trade him and get something back for him, he would understand that. Shout out to Larry Bird for knowing that about, 4 months ago and deciding 2 months ago that he doesn't want to be with them anymore because it was too much of a headache and this was going to turn into much of a mess, and he saw it coming. Relatively, it's going to be really hard for Indiana, especially in the state of today's NBA, to build some kind of contender. Like, to get anything back for Paul George that's worth Paul George. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
and the Lakers damn sure don't have it.
But neither does any other team. Right? Like, can you think of another team? I mean, the team that they say are in play are Cleveland. So what, you give up Kevin Love?
Probably. That's more than Lakers can give up.
Is it? Because what else do you give up other than Kevin Love? Is Kevin Love for Paul George straight up better than anything you can get from the Lakers?
Yes.
Why would you take Kevin Love straight up for Paul George, though?
Because if you say, well, what do the Lakers have to offer? Oh, they don't have Kevin Love.
And I agree that they should open it up past just these 2 teams. Because if you're looking at just these 2 teams, then yeah, Kevin Love straight up for Paul George is literally probably the best offer they're going to get. But I mean, if you throw a team like, I don't even know, the Blazers in the mix, or you throw a team like the Suns in the mix, who the Suns have literally a starting roster that none of them were like the starting roster of the Suns last year was on average younger than the starting roster of either college college teams that started in the national championship for basketball this year. So like the Suns have a lot of very young talent and they're loaded with picks like the Sixers. You look at a team like that, but Paul George is going to go get traded there. He's not going to help them win, any better. Like, it doesn't make sense for the Suns to do that because they're not in contention right now. Maybe the Clippers, but then the Clippers give up players like DeAndre Jordan and players like J.J. Redick and players like, you know what I mean? You start to add it up. outside of the Warriors and Cavs,
there's nothing. Indiana should definitely try to move him at this rate. Absolutely. But you're trying, that whole soliloquy was, are you going to get value? And the answer is no, outside of Kevin Love.
I just don't see Indiana being able to get anything in return that is as good as Paul George as they would be giving up.
No, you're going to have to either involve a third team. Look, the Lakers have...
But even involving a third team is what I meant. Like, okay, say you didn't involve a third team. Outside of getting a Jimmy Butler or getting a top 5 pick back and other players, like Paul George is a what? What would you put him as? A top 5, top 10 player in the NBA right now?
He ain't top 5. I don't know.
My thing
is he's in the top 10.
There's not a lot of value. Like, there's not. Look, is Indiana a playoff roster? If you just take Paul George off of their roster, right? And that's my point. Is so can you just insert one player? Take Paul George off and then insert one player on them. Are they a playoff roster in the East?
No.
And that's more where I was trying to head with that.
In the East, you could probably do it, but. They're not, from Indiana's perspective, they're most likely outside of a couple of those pieces that we've already named, Kevin Love or Jimmy Butler or something like that.
Right.
You're not going to get the value to match the Paul George. From the Lakers' perspective, which is what I'm talking about, is they don't need to do it. Like, what for? First of all, they have nothing to match whatever most teams are going to offer them. That was most likely going to be so much better, i.e. a Jimmy Butler or a Kevin Love.
Right.
Second of all, Paul George already said he's coming to the Lakers.
Well, I'll give you the what for.
So then, if Paul George is already saying, I'm in, all the reports are saying
he didn't say
coming,
he was going. He said he would prefer to play.
You know what the hell I'm saying. Outside, when he says, I would prefer...
LaMarcus Aldridge said he would prefer to play as well.
Listen for 5 seconds.
Where is he at?
Listen for 5 seconds.
No, prefer to play and actually say you're going to play or two. He said he would prefer to play for LA, yes or no?
Outside
it's the same thing, man. It's the same exact thing.
I don't recall LaMarcus Aldridge saying he preferred to play with LA.
Oh my gosh, LaMarcus Aldridge said he preferred to play with LA, and then he actually sat down with the Lakers. He had a 2-day thing in LA with them.
Okay, fine.
He literally said, I prefer to play for LA.
Relax.
It's the same thing.
Relax.
And where's he at?
Would you relax for 5 seconds? 5 seconds. Okay?
Got you.
Outside of, okay. Now, when LaMarcus Aldridge was saying that, it was a whole different regime. It doesn't matter. That's so irrelevant. That has nothing to do with it. I hear what you're attempting to say, but it's not the same thing. That's just like the Clippers. Well, Jerry West is out there. It's a whole different conversation. When Paul George says, I'm willing to come to your team, or preferred, or whatever the hell vocabulary you prefer to use, whatever adjectives you want to throw out there, why, as the Lakers, do you even offer anything? You don't need to offer shit. Say, take it or leave it. Regardless, he prefers to come here, so chances are we're going to like our chances and go after him. If I'm the Lakers, and as a fan of them, I'm saying don't give up anything outside of something stupid that they won't accept anyway. Like, here, you want Nick Young? No, they're not going to take a Nick Young. Here, do you want Julius Randle? You're not going to take Julius Randle. Supposedly, what they want is our number 2 overall pick. And apparently the Lakers said, no, you're not getting that. Which, breaking news, as of today, as of this recording, we got rid of the snitch, D'Angelo Russell. So clearly, when you get rid of that point guard, which is what I've been saying, what are you going to do with him if you want Lonzo? Well, they traded him. So clearly, what do they want? They want Lonzo.
Right, obviously.
So you're not going to give up that second round pick. So what you do, you draft him, you wait that year, and hope to sign him, which if you're Magic Johnson, chances are you're banking on that. The Pacers aren't getting anything. The Pacers aren't getting a damn thing.
What my reasoning?
I don't know. Is it going to take 5 minutes?
No. You're looking at it from the sense of just
logic.
Okay, or you're looking at it just from the sense of just the Lakers and just Indiana. You're not looking at it from the sense of what if he goes
because that's all that matters.
What if he goes to Cleveland for a year and he gets sold on the fact of staying with LeBron for a couple years? What if he goes to Miami for a year and he gets sold on the fact of being the guy to bring them to Miami?
Cleveland? That's a little more realistic saying I get sold on the fact to go to Miami.
What about it? Why? Because Miami, look, every player has admitted that they've come out, they've gone to Miami in worse shape than they've left Miami.
It makes more sense going to Miami.
Okay, well, I thought you meant the other way.
Calm down. You go in all up in your fans with LeBron. I know I said the L word, the LeBron word.
No, I thought you were talking about it's better to go to Cleveland than Miami because I was going to make the argument it's better to go to Miami than Cleveland. It's way better to go to Miami than Cleveland.
That's what I'm saying. I can see, okay, If he wants to do that, then fine. But
that's my point. That's why if you're the Lakers, you try to get him now instead of letting him go see a team like San Antonio, letting him go see a team like Miami for a year, letting him go see a team like Cleveland. I know LeBron isn't the end, but my point is letting him go see another place where he could go, you know what I mean, get sold on that place for a year and sign the 70.
That'd be cool if it wasn't for the past 2 years that it's been talks at LA Lakers is where he wants to be.
Because his other option was Indiana, but now if they open it up to a team like Miami, and Miami can offer him the $40 extra million, and it's not Indiana offering him the $40 extra million, that's my point, is that you want him to not be offered 40 extra. Look, I get it. If you're talking Indiana or LA, he's going to take the $40 less million and pick LA every day of the week. I don't disagree with you on that. My thing is if he goes to Miami for a year, or if he goes to Dallas for a year, or if he goes to Golden State for a year, and he can get offered 30, 40 million more dollars a year, which I understand is unrealistic in a place like Golden State, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yep, shout out to Dwight Howard.
For what? His was a sign and trade, so he could make that extra money, and that's what.
Shout out to Dwight Howard for coming to the Lakers and making a decision he didn't want to be in the Lakers.
And I hear you there, but that doesn't. I mean, they're
not making that.
That's such a rare thing. But my point is Dwight Howard is the exception to the rule. With the Lakers, but he's the exception to the rule in 90% of things when it comes to that. So I agree with you. I hear you there, but I don't agree in the sense of what if Paul George does go? You can't just bank on him being. You always tell me all the time you can't bank on the future, right? You always say my hope. Well, you're hoping Paul George. You're just like, oh, well, we have him, but no, you're hoping you have him. You don't know that.
For the past 2 years, that's all the news has been is that he.
That's all there was about LaMarcus Aldridge. That's all there was about Russell Westbrook.
Not for 2 or 3 years.
Russell Westbrook's not going to be a free agent for another 4 years, and they've been talking about it for four.
Because he bought in and
4 years ago.
Because of there was another crumb snatcher that got up and went and
he just signed the extension this year after that guy left.
Right, that's what I just said. If you just listen to what I just said, I said he banked on his situation and gave in to his city after this crumb snatcher up and ref and got his championship.
But wouldn't it make more sense to go to LA than it would to stay in Oklahoma City and lose? Wouldn't it make sense to stay in LA and lose, or to go to LA? It's
a whole different conversation because he didn't want to be that guy. He wanted to stay with that franchise considering the circumstances of this other guy that left. That's a whole nother conversation. Completely different.
Why doesn't Paul George not want to be that guy? What if Paul George...
he does or doesn't.
George leaving the Pacers isn't any different than KD leaving...
I don't know why this had to turn into an argument. I'm saying it doesn't make sense for the Lakers. Oh my God.
I think it does in the sense of if he goes to Miami, or if he goes to a Cleveland, or if he goes to a Boston, or if he goes to a Chicago, and he buys into that system, and he buys into that team, and he buys into that city, the Lakers then banking on their...
What are we giving Indiana?
I don't disagree that not. But what is anybody giving Indiana? Is
a lot more than the Lakers is the.
But nobody can give me the lot more. Okay, so you said Chicago. Chicago's not giving up Jimmy Butler to get.
So then
Paul
nobody's
George.
giving up anything, and then Paul George is going to be a free agent, and then we're just going to sign him. The end.
I just think if I'm the Lakers, I look at it long and hard about trying to figure out a way to get him this deadline.
Look, we got rid of D'Angelo, so that's not an option. I mean, if you want to you get rid of Randall, okay, maybe. Does Indiana really want just Julius Randle?
Now you and I agree. That? You and I agree that they're not going to trade that pick. But would you trade the pick for Paul George? I would. I would trade Randle and the pick for Paul George. Especially if you think.
No.
Especially if you think LeBron's coming out your way.
I don't know. No. I don't know. No, because I think I do. I think he's coming regardless. I really do. There's just been way too much talk for way too long, and
I think in the next 2 years
we keep going back and forth about there's
going there. I don't know if it's him. I think it will. I think he's a very good potential chance of it. I'm not saying what I was saying is going to happen.
The only team out here that can realistically and is pursuing supposedly is the Cavaliers, and they can put up something out there.
The Heat have a lot of assets.
Anyway. That went on way too long.
So that makes me to the next thing with the Lakers.
What?
You getting your boy Ball.
Apparently.
So I know
that the writing's on the wall, I guess, when you get rid of D'Angelo, which is what I've been arguing, which no way for some reason wants to talk about any of these damn networks, but then we traded him for a whole bunch of nothing.
They traded for cap space. They traded him and Mozgov for cap because Mozgov is
which is cool. The cap
pretty
space,
bad contract, and then you have. But the cap space is for Paul George, and the moving positions is for Lonzo Ball.
Outside of that, I don't know.
Ingram, Random, Ball, and Paul George would be a pretty fun lineup.
It sounds cute, but when I look at D'Angelo Russell, who is just coming off what he just came off. Now I'm talking about the NBA. I'm talking about college, which everyone would say, oh, the next great thing. He was right there in that conversation with Embiid and whoever the hell else was in that draft.
Yes, he was.
So
it was Embiid, someone, and then him. I think ranked from out of coming out, but he was the best point guard.
Cool. So you mean to tell me, outside of the cap space thing, which is cool, and outside of the get rid of Mozgov thing, you mean to tell me we got rid of this D'Angelo Russell, this snitch, this number 1, 2, 3, whatever pick he was, for this late first round? Really? That's what we got for him. That was the market for D'Angelo Russell, was a late first round draft pick. Really?
I still think it has more to do with money. I think it has more to do with money than it does anything else.
I'm saying ignore that. I'm saying...
But if you ignore that, then yeah, you're right. Then it looks like a really bad trade for the Lakers. But I think the Lakers GM, not Magic, who's the other guy? The guy who used to be the agent, the GM. I can't think of his name now. I think
Jimbo?
No. The actual GM. He was the agent of all these. He was
Mitch
Westbrook's
Kupchak?
agent. No, they fired Mitch Kupchak, and they fired them two both for this guy. I can't think of the actual GM of the Lakers' name. He used to be an agent. He was like Russell Westbrook's agent last year. He used to be an agent. He's a smart guy, and I don't think he would have done that. Look, I understand what you're saying. If you look at the names, in the pick in this, yes, it looks like a really bad trade for the Lakers. But I think with the amount of cap space they let go,
you know what it tells me? It's exactly what I've been arguing about on the show from the beginning.
LeBron?
No.
Oh.
Well, to a degree, yeah. They care more about getting these free agents than they care about these dumbass picks.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
Everybody wants.
LA has always been the free agent market.
Check. This is what I'm saying. Everybody was like, what about the pick? What about the pick?
Well, you and I have always agreed that LA has been more trying to get free agents than they have been picks. I think that's...
I don't know. I've always heard that we need some picks, so I don't know.
You and I have always agreed, though, the Lakers, what they go after, what they have built their entire franchise off of, they are the New York Yankees of basketball.
I've been arguing that with you for a minute. I wish I could find the exact clip because it wasn't the exact... Anyway, I guess that's what they're doing then.
Well, I've always been steadfast on the way they have built their franchise is completely going after free agents. No, I was just saying in the market that they were trying to get at the time did not make sense. They needed to get the picks. And what did they do? They drafted 3 guys in the top 3 years in a row, and now they're finally going after it. They're going the opposite way. But there's no question the history of them and what has been more successful for the Lakers have always been going after free agents. And that goes back to Kareem. No? That doesn't?
I'm shaking my head because this is not the conversation we had, but fine.
Yeah, I felt like they had to build up 3 years worth of picks, which they did. They got Russell, Ingram, and the Snitch. That was the 3 years worth of picks. Isn't that what I'm saying? 3 years worth of picks, right? No? Okay. I do recall saying 3 years, 4 years worth of picks, and then you gotta go after free agents. You can't just go after free agents without any kind of basis. You can't just have a team.
We went after free agents, then we got rid of one of them after his first year. Or second year.
But you admit he didn't want to be there, and with the Kobe...
I don't know if Russell didn't want to be there or not.
Oh, I thought... No, those were picks. You said free agents. I thought you were talking about Dwight Howard. Yes, you're right. Picks, absolutely.
About Russell.
But I was telling you at the time about picks. You get the picks for assets so you can get the free agents because of what Kobe's contract did was handcuffed to the point...
Allegedly.
Well, it did. Handcuffed to the point where they couldn't sign anybody to a big contract. And then the first year they could, they ended up signing Timothy freaking Mozgov to a max contract, which was...
We still had a lot of money. We still didn't sign anybody, so that had nothing to do with Kobe. Just saying.
Well, not a year after the contract, no. But those last 3 years that he was under contract, they couldn't sign another max deal. I mean, that was just how it went, sadly. Anyways, so the last thing I want to talk about with the NBA, your boy LeBron. He gonna be a Laker.
Says who?
According to a lot of NBA people, now Bill Simmons is one of them, and he's probably the most notable one to bring up. He's not the only one. There's a lot of NBA people that think that LeBron's gonna go to LA to finish out his career. They say the Clippers or the Lakers. The Clippers make no sense to me.
Did we just have a conversation about Paul George?
Well, this would be free agent.
Didn't we just talk about Paul George?
Do you think LeBron wants to stay in Cleveland over one more year?
No, because that's who he is as a person. But did we just talk about Paul George? It's a whole lot of they prefer to go there.
Well, I thought you thought Paul George was a guarantee over there.
I think he is. I haven't heard a single story about LeBron.
You ever heard LeBron?
I've heard a lot of rumors. Nothing about LeBron wants to go there.
Well, LeBron doesn't actually ever say what he wants to do until after he does it. That's been LeBron's MO. You didn't hear LeBron wanted to go to Miami until after he actually went to Miami. There was no talk about.
So we're just talking about
there
rumors.
was no talk about LeBron going to Cleveland. There was talk about LeBron maybe going back home, or possibly. There was talk about LeBron probably going somewhere else, and then he ends up back in Cleveland. Now, look,
a lot of rumors.
As a LeBron fan,
we talk about the LeBron's the Lakers thing for like 4 years.
Let me put it out this way: one, I wouldn't mind seeing him as a Laker.
Okay? Oh, I would.
That wouldn't bother me at all.
That would crush my soul.
Might crush our show too, because then you would have to actually choose: do you like LeBron, or do you hate LeBron so much, or do you love the Lakers so much?
No, that would
be a very hard.
No, that's simple. That's the Dwight Howard aspect. We had this conversation many times. That's the I don't like you, but I root for my team. So please do well, and when you mess up, I'm gonna lose my shit.
Now, Dwight Howard bailed you out on the sense of Dwight Howard just ended up being a bum the whole time he was there, and then was a bum the way he left. Where LeBron
will be on the tail end of his career, an old man, and maybe in the same situation.
I don't think he'd be a bum. I think he would. Look, do you think anybody could be as bad as Dwight Howard was in a Lakers uniform? You would like to see LeBron be that bad, but I mean, could you imagine anyone ever actually being as bad as Dwight Howard was in a Lakers uniform?
So we're talking what? He's up next year?
Yeah, it would be after this season.
I just don't know, like, how much money do you, outside of Cleveland, a couple teams, like, I don't know.
A lot of people say the Clippers. I don't see the Clippers for the sense of...
How much money do you give this older man who had all this mileage, he played all these playoff games, and, he did...
if he just went to 9 straight...
The Olympics and all this stuff,
I agree. That's why he's so tired when it comes to these big things. But
how much do you give this man at this point? By then, KD might very well be number one. Let's just...
Oh, KD will be number one with it, I think, after that. Yes,
just humor it.
It'll be him and KD.
And then I guess it'll be, because I'm a Kobe fan, it'll just be the Kobe versus LeBron. It's like, well, yeah, all the Kobe fans were saying, yeah, Kobe's still number one, but really LeBron, I guess, was supposedly taking his spot. At that aspect, it's going to be the same thing. LeBron's number one, but everybody's going to be saying, no, really, KD is. And
the thing with KD is going to be, he's going to be playing around much better talent than LeBron or Kobe did in that span. So, like, the Kobe-LeBron thing, they were both carrying their franchises, where KD isn't even valued as the best value on his team. While he might be valued as the best talent, he's valued behind Steph Curry, and a lot of people have him valued behind Draymond Green.
So who does LeBron carry in a year? Him, Paul George, maybe, apparently, supposedly, maybe not, and Lonzo Ball? Like, I don't see how that benefits him outside of...
Oh, no.
If he wants to
talking about him going to the West Coast, going to the Lakers? No.
If he goes to the West Coast and goes to the Lakers...
Golden State?
If he goes to the West Coast and goes to the Lakers, to me, that's him saying, it's done.
Yes, me too. I agree.
And I'm just looking at my future. I'm trying to be Kobe out here, trying to be this brand and just do a million other things outside of basketball, especially when I'm retired. From that aspect, I can understand it, but at that rate, from my perspective, take your ass to the Clippers then.
Yeah,
go with Jerry West.
As a Lakers fan, because he's not focused on winning then.
Go with Jerry West, go to the Clippers, and just be that guy then. Peace out.
Man, that's crazy. I never thought I'd get you to admit that those last couple of years of Kobe were more about his brand than winning.
I'm more so being ironic. That argument was ironic more than anything.
Because I do think he was more about his brand than winning those last 4 years, but I don't think that Kobe was necessarily against winning. I feel like he still wanted to win.
That's not at all what I said, but... No, that's not at all what I said.
I think Kobe still went out there and competed every day like he wanted to win a championship. I just think that Kobe knew the position he was in.
The last 2 years, when he tore his Achilles, he knew it was done.
And I'm a player guy, so I'm like, look, if they offer you a max contract well after your max days, then you take your max contract well after your max days, because you go get your money, boo-boo, just like Dwayne Wade did in Chicago. You go get your money, boo-boo. Ain't no one else paying you $24 million anywhere. Even though he knows him taking that $24 million in Chicago means he most likely, if he makes the playoffs, ain't doing anything but the first round again. And that's fine. Go do that. If you have your rings, go chase your money, not your rings. Anyways, not the point.
I don't see LeBron coming to the Lakers. Don't.
I don't see him going to the Clippers. And honestly, the more I sit and think about it,
he's going to the Warriors because that's what LeBron does.
I don't see him
can't beat him, let's join him.
Wait, when did LeBron say can't beat him, let's join him? Who did he ever lose to that he joined?
Next year. That's what I was saying.
You said that's what he does. What else? When else has he done that?
Oh my gosh.
You did just say that's what he does. I'm just trying to figure out where you get this information from.
Calm down.
Word. All right.
Get all up in his feelings with LeBron.
I was just trying to figure out where you were coming. Because if we're gonna come at him, I'm cool with people coming at LeBron. It just seems like a lot of unjust things like that. Like that's an unjust shot at LeBron that doesn't need to be taken at him, right?
Get on your feelings. Calm down.
Am I wrong?
Jesus. Yes, because you all up in your feelings.
I didn't know LeBron did that before.
It was a joke.
You did say that.
So me saying I didn't know LeBron did that before means I'm all up in my feelings, and you didn't mean it as a joke. But I'm gonna.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out where you're coming from.
Christ.
So I don't see him staying with Cleveland though, right? Because the deal of him coming back to Cleveland now, and we had our show at the time, and I didn't like him going from Miami to Cleveland because I thought that the only reason he went back to Cleveland was A, because of the fans, and B, I just feel like the Heat are a more stable organization. So I was like, if it's between the two, stay with the Heat. I was saying that at the time. Even though Pat Riley and the Heat weren't necessarily given everything LeBron wants, I am somebody, as much as I like the player over the establishment, who does understand a place like the Heat, if they're not giving you certain things, like LeBron didn't get his entourage in the locker room, and that was a part of, not the biggest deal, but that was a 1/10 of the reason of why he left, they say, right? Well, my thing is if they're not letting you do that, it's for a reason, and I think the establishment of Pat Riley, even though I am a player power person, I do understand the establishment of Pat Riley, and the things that Pat Riley was saying no to were for reasons, for certain reasons, to try to make you better as the player and try to make the team better. And at the end of the day, we watch this because we want to watch our teams win championships, and I want to, you know what I'm saying? So, like, if the Sixers were to tell a couple of players they couldn't do this, this, and this because we feel like it's going to make the team better in the long run, I understand it. Now, I also understand LeBron had so much power that LeBron could literally give them the double burden and say, well, my entourage and I can go play somewhere else, and the entourage can go sit in the locker room somewhere else, and that's exactly what he did, and he has every right to do that, even though I wasn't a fan of it at the time. I understand why he did it, to try to bring the fans back and whatnot, but I did not see him staying in Cleveland long term at the time because, well, we have the X factor, Dan Gilbert, and even though he wanted to make right with the fans, never in my life did I think he wanted to make right with Dan Gilbert, considering he wouldn't have walked in there and looked for the contract that he got, looked for the power that he got, and looked for the establishment of basically Dan Gilbert putting in 60% of the profit of the Cavaliers into LeBron James's best friend's basically bank account, which the Cavaliers have been doing since LeBron James has been there. That was LeBron James' way of being like, I'm taking my power, I'm coming here, I'm going to do what I have to do to try to reconcile with my fans, but I'm not going to stand here and still be like, you're not slave. I know the word slave's hard, but basically you're part of your establishment, Dan Gilbert. Dan Gilbert goes out the year before LeBron James is a free agent and does basically what Dan Gilbert likes to do, mess everything up. He fired Griffin, the GM, David Griffin, the GM, who, look, it's not the owner's... The owner doesn't have to run it by his best player in any organization if he wants to do something like fire his GM. When you have a guy as good as LeBron, chances are you kind of want to ask him or just make sure that he'd be all right with if you were to necessarily fire your GM. And apparently, the reason that the GM was fired was because the GM was trying to build and prepare with a future of without LeBron instead of trying to continue to just build around this necessarily team. And the owner and him didn't see eye to eye. Where LeBron has proven once before he might not stay in Cleveland, so why would you prepare for him to just stay in Cleveland after that? Especially if he's made it clear to them that I might not stay in Cleveland. Anyways.
He won't.
And I don't think he will either.
Okay.
But, so that makes more sense on the side of the team following the GM, and the GM was like, look, let's go after a guy like Jimmy Butler, not Paul George. Because if we go after Jimmy Butler, we got him on contract for 4 more years. We got Kyrie on contract for 3 more years. We got K-Love on contract for 2 more years. We can still actually win basketball games without LeBron if LeBron after the season says no. And on top of it, you give LeBron more of a reason to come back when you get a guy like Jimmy Butler instead of Paul George. Because to our conversation earlier, if Paul George goes to Cleveland, chances are what does he do? He goes to LA in the offseason. You get a guy like Jimmy Butler who's handcuffed to his contract for 2 more years after this year. Kyrie's handcuffed to his contract for 2 more years. Kevin Love's handcuffed to that contract for 1 more year. So you have LeBron sitting there like, well, I got a big 4 right here. Do you know what I mean? It makes more sense instead of potentially him and somebody else leaving to a different place. My bigger on top of everything I just said about Cleveland, about their owner, about trying to please LeBron, Dan Gilbert has owned the Cavs for 13 years. He's had 4 different GMs. He is the only owner in the last 13 years to not extend a GM for at least one more term past their contract. He is the only owner in basketball in that time frame.
And you would think the one that would get that would be the one that just won a championship.
That's 2 years ago. Usually, when a GM wins a championship, they're a president, and we agree. Look.
Okay, so 2 years ago, and you were in the finals 3 years.
3 years in a row.
So that's.
And they fire him.
You would think that of all the years and all the nonsense and all the GMs that you've gone through and all the stars leaving to take their talents elsewhere and coming back and
because of the way you handled things like this.
But you would think that now would be the time that there's kind of some stability here. Maybe I should sign you and re-sign you.
Dan Gilbert knows full well that LeBron and Griffin are actually friends of some kind, or at least they have a pretty good relationship, obviously, which LeBron came out in April and said, I mean, if it was up to me, I would extend him. He came out the year before and
he
said
ain't firing him like the coaches. Yeah,
he said that the year before that he actually would have extended him after the championship. He said, I think Griff deserves an extension in another role, which usually. Look, the Warriors, 2 years ago, their GM became their GM and president. The year after that, he became their president, GM, and cooperation is something else. And then he got a raise in losing the finals the year after. So, you look at it, and it's literally the team they're competing with is advancing their GM as more roles in the organization. And then you're the team, you're not advancing his role, and then you just cut him right in the middle of this run where you're trying to compete with the Golden State Warriors. I think it says more about Dan Gilbert, who, whether you like LeBron, dislike LeBron, whatever, I think all of us can agree the most dysfunctional owner in the NBA is Dan Gilbert. I mean, he has nothing to his name outside of LeBron James in the history of him owning his team. And I know it's only 13 years, which is a very small sample size in comparative of most NBA franchises, but he has nothing to his name outside of bought a team that LeBron James was on, lost LeBron James, and then got LeBron James to come back, and actually in the deal got worked by LeBron James.
He's definitely top 3. I don't know if he's number 1. But
to me, he's the most dysfunctional, and he has probably the worst track record. And I mean, I don't like my own owners.
Outside, no.
I don't like the owners of the team that I like, and I feel like they've done a better job, and I haven't agreed with the things they've done.
That's probably top 3. Next owner's probably top 3. So he's in conversation.
I would say James Dolan and him. But the thing with the Sixers owner is,
they're in conversation.
They've only owned the team for 5 years, sadly.
Whatever.
Did I like the 5 years? Not really, but
they're in a conversation.
They're finally on track to do something different.
They're still in a conversation. Until proven not guilty.
But they've extended a GM. They've actually extended 2 GMs in that time frame. They're at least trying to figure a plan and go for it, where this guy is just yeah, the GM means nothing. I can run my own team. Yeah. When in all reality,
when the GM's gone and LeBron's gone, good luck, bro.
They're not going to do well, exactly. And that's kind of more my point, in the sense of, in reality, he's only owned this team for 5 years when LeBron hasn't been on the team, and those 5 years that LeBron hasn't been on the team are the 5 worst years in the history of the NBA. So, that's the other side of this. There's stories of those Cavs teams rooting for the Sixers teams of the last couple years to win less games than those Cavs teams did when LeBron was gone. And the Sixers did not. They won more games than those teams. That's how bad the Cavs were without LeBron. So that's all he has to base off of what he's done since without LeBron. And that's not good. And then to go and fire a guy who didn't LeBron leave once because you weren't doing things LeBron wanted you to do? Isn't LeBron pretty open about, I would rather you extend Griffin, and then you didn't? It's just deja vu all over again, and I won't really blame LeBron if he doesn't want to spend any more time with with Dan Gilbert than he has to, because it seems like this guy is on his own agenda, and it's not really the winning agenda. It's just more how do I save the most money agenda. And that's not how you become a successful NBA franchise. You got to spend money to make money in the business world. You got to spend money to win championships in the NBA world. That's just how it goes. This puts them in a bad position in the sense of, so now that he's gone, it gives LeBron his kind of out, right? It gives LeBron his little well, look at what they've done. I don't want to stay here with this kind of organization. But so then LeBron leaves. You don't have Griffin. What that adds to you. It does, though, yes? I mean, isn't that forever going to go down as well? Look at the way they were handling things before LeBron left. I mean, that's just how it's going to go down, whether that's fair or not.
We're just going to keep going.
But my point, but my thing is, so say LeBron's gone, right? Well, Kyrie's not going to want to stay. I mean, he went through 4 bad years. He is long-term, but he's already said he's going to ask for a trade if LeBron leaves. You're already talking about getting rid of Kevin Love for a guy like Paul George, who if LeBron leaves, Paul George obviously won't be there for longer than LeBron will. So then you are putting yourself in his organization as just having Kyrie, who is already saying if LeBron's not there, I'm going to ask to leave. You're kind of really putting yourself in a horrible position unless you can go out and get a Jimmy Butler. But how do you go out and get a Jimmy Butler if you don't have a GM?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Especially if the whole talk is Jimmy Butler's going to move before the for the draft. Now, look, that is a really bad deadline. The draft is only a couple days away. The Bulls aren't going to rush a trade just to say Jimmy Butler's gone before the draft, or another team's not going to rush a trade just to get Jimmy Butler before the draft. But per se, that is a somewhat of a deadline. If you don't have a GM and Paul George and Jimmy Butler are out there flying around and you're trying to add one more piece to make you up comparative of Golden State, you would think that would be a good time to have a GM and make that piece. I mean, who's on the, like, Griffin's gone and his assistant's gone. So the guy who was right next to Griffin making deals, he's not there either as of the day of this recording. So you're looking at nobody really being able to control your front office during a time where the front offices of other organizations are making major deals. You don't want to miss out on something like that. And this could be a major misstep of the Cavaliers moving forward for not just the history of their franchise, but for this period of time in their franchise. I mean, they're a team that you could literally look at possibly LeBron leaving after his 4th year, and then so they had 4-year run, and that was it. And I know Miami had the 4-year run, but at least Miami was a stable organization when LeBron left. This would not be a stable roster if LeBron left this roster today. I mean, this would not be a stable roster. There's nothing they can add, I think, in this offseason to make them a stable roster that if LeBron were to leave after next season, they are competitive in the sense of a top 10 NBA team. Right? I mean, they don't beat the Boston Celtics without LeBron. They don't, and if they do, they get swept 10 times in a row by Golden State, right? So,
yeah.
If you were part of Cleveland, how do you feel about this move? And what do you think they can do moving forward in the sense of either if you know LeBron's leaving, if you're keeping LeBron, how do you handle it? How do you like at this exact moment? How do you handle?
I don't know.
As a fan,
I don't know.
What about as a fan? How would you feel though?
I don't know.
It's got to be frustrating. I mean, that's got to be frustrating as a Cleveland Cavalier fan.
I don't know. Sure.
Outside of the Clippers, other than your era with LeBron, you are known as the worst franchise in basketball, right? Like outside, they had what two runs at the playoffs before LeBron. I think it's just once again Dan Gilbert really putting his foot in his mouth. Really, I mean, this is the same guy who said they were going to win a championship before the Miami Heat, and then ended up having the worst 5 years in the history of basketball. You just don't care about the Cavaliers.
No, I'm astonished that you spend 9 minutes talking about it.
Because it's actually that's a huge deal. This is one of the 2 teams that just went to the NBA Finals. Just fired their GM abruptly after their GM asked to talk to 3 other teams, and he was told he can't talk to 3 other teams. So that would assume, okay, they're going to extend him. They don't extend him, so now they fire him in a position where he can't go get another GM job this season, which is a really dick move on the owner's part for not letting him talk to the other teams when he should have let him talk to these other teams if you weren't going to bring him back.
You're way too passionate about a team that has nothing to do with you.
But I would feel this way if it was about the Blazers. I felt this way when
You're way too passionate about teams that have nothing to do with you.
We're a sports show. We're supposed to cover things that happen in sports. This is a huge deal when it comes to sports. If this was your team, if the Dallas Cowboys did this to their GM, if the Eagles did this to their GM, we would have let our show off with this, right?
It has nothing to do with it. I'm just laughing internally.
We wouldn't have let our show off with this if one of our favorite teams did this? This wouldn't be talked about?
It has nothing to do with what I'm saying. I'm not saying it should be talked about. I'm just amazed that you can literally go for 11 minutes and just talk about it.
This is what I do. This is when we talk sports. We're doing a sports show. This is what I want to do for a living. I want to get paid by other people to do this for a living, to talk sports. So yeah, I'm passionate, and I have an opinion on something somebody in sports did today.
Clearly.
Well, when I tried to get a reaction out of you to the Lakers, I didn't get anything. When I tried to talk to you about the Celtics and Sixers, I didn't get anything.
You got a reaction out of me.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I have opinions on all the... We're a sports show. This is what we do. I have sports opinions 24/7. I mean, I was telling you about the WNBA earlier.
You have an 11-minute opinion about the Cleveland Cavaliers? And what they're doing with their GM?
I could have went on 10 more minutes about the Lakers and the Celtics, but I was getting like nothing in return from you, so I just moved on. So we got nothing with the Cleveland. It's just going to be... I think that Dan Gilbert made a pretty bad move, and...
I got nothing on Cleveland because it's a whole lot of nothing's happening. Yeah, they got rid of the GM. What's going to happen moving forward? Don't know. When something happens, I'll let you know. I don't have comments on what ifs and hypotheticals and should they or shouldn't they. I don't think LeBron... Okay, to sum it up in 30 seconds, I don't think LeBron's going to LA. Did the owner make a bad move getting rid of the GM? I don't know because supposedly he has cancer. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Was it a right move? I don't know. It could have been a bad move. Don't know. Should you question LeBron with all your decisions? Absolutely. You want to please him. To your point about 10 minutes ago, yes, you want to please him. But moving forward, what is it going to mean? Don't know.
Well, he was just on the phone. Griffin apparently yesterday was on the phone
Don't know. I just summed up your whole conversation in 30 seconds.
With teams for... he was looking for Butler and he was looking for Paul George. I mean... Unless they get a Butler or Paul George, they're not going to get, obviously, any better moving forward. So you can't really compete with Golden State next year. Butler's the better of the two, obviously, long-term, as I've already established. But would you make a deal for Butler or Paul George if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers moving forward? Would you trade Kevin Love for Paul George, or would you trade Kevin Love for Jimmy Butler?
Jimmy Butler, sure. Paul George, no, because supposedly he wants to be a Laker. Why give that up for him?
Because are you looking at a 1 year run with LeBron James?
That's not enough. That's not enough.
And I agree with you that's not enough.
They're not. Jimmy Butler, fine. At least he's not going anywhere.
Right. I've been hearing a lot of the argument of if all you can get is Paul George, then it is worth it to trade for the 1 year. Because in reality, even if you trade for Jimmy Butler, you really only have a 1 year run because you have LeBron James for that 1 year. But I feel like if you trade for Jimmy Butler, you have a better chance of, as I said before, keeping Kyrie. And that's the bigger thing is, can you keep the assets that you do have, the Kyrie Irvings and whoever you do trade for, plus Kevin Love moving forward? But if you trade for somebody, then obviously you're trading Kevin Love. I mean, I think that they should, if they have the opportunity to go get Jimmy Butler or Paul George, I think they should do it. Even if it is for Kevin Love, because you can't play Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson on the floor at the same time against this Golden State team, and they're your two biggest rebounders. So you got to figure out how to get rid of one of them, but not just get rid of one of them, replace one of them on the floor while everyone else is on the floor that is productive. So you would think getting rid of Kevin Love and getting a Paul George, or getting rid of Kevin Love and getting a Jimmy Butler would be not the answer to make it better, but would give you a little bit more of a boost. The only thing is to do that without a GM the week of the draft is probably not the best idea. If you were the next Cavs GM, what's the first thing you do moving forward? Do you try to prepare for a future without LeBron, or do you try to do the 1 year run? I know you just said you wouldn't go for Paul George for the 1 year run.
Stop and move on. LeBron's not staying.
So you prepare for the longer future without him. Try to make a Kyrie Irving happy.
LeBron's going LeBron. He's going to leave. Yeah. I don't see him sticking around. So yeah, I figure out how.
And I said at the beginning of this Cleveland thing, I didn't think LeBron was staying long term, anyways.
Figure out how to keep this thing going, moving forward.
Yes.
Because I don't see LeBron sticking around because that's just not his MO. He's just not that guy. Whether he's going to go chase money or he's going to go chase LA and get money that way, or he's going to go chase rings. I could legitimately see this dude, that's a nice way of putting it, going to Golden State. I say that as a joke, but tell me it doesn't sound like something that he wouldn't do. Right, you can't, because it sounds like there's a possibility that he would just be like, I mean, I'm not talking about, well, they got to figure out the money, they got to figure out. I'm talking about if he had the opportunity to say,
I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to go there. I was going to go in the sense of
He would so take that opportunity if he has that opportunity.
I don't think there's a player that I can't see moving from anywhere. Ever since Kevin Garnett went to Boston, it's not like I can't see a player moving to a different city in any.
So that's a no on your part. So you can see him doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that was the question. Which is why I'm saying, you know what? Move on. Move on. If he's not committed now, he's not going to be committed.
And if I'm Cleveland,
where does he go from here? I don't know. I don't really care. But I don't think he's not going to be a Cavalier. I said this when he signed with Cleveland. I said this when he did this.
We both agreed.
Said this.
We didn't think he was going to stay in Cleveland. I don't think he went back to Cleveland to go do long-term at Cleveland. I said that when he did it. I thought that he went to Cleveland to make good with the fans, and he made good with the fans. And that was his entire... He did not want to be hated at his hometown any longer, and I thought that was the entire reason he did it. But I didn't think he was staying in Cleveland long-term. I thought that was a couple-year stop, and then he was going to go figure something else out for the end of his career. I don't know if I thought that the Lakers or LA necessarily was the deal, but I wasn't even going on LeBron. I was asking you about Cleveland in the sense of, so as a player, you're seeing this, and now you know LeBron chances are ain't going to be there after this year. What would entice you as a player to want to go play for that owner, for an organization that seems to be very unstable without...
I was going to say, you wouldn't have to go that far. As the Cavaliers, they don't get players. They're not going to get anything. So
and over their history, they haven't.
So
but
no, there's nothing.
Right now, you have an owner who botched... Look, he botched 4 years in a row of bad draft picks. Other than Kyrie Irving is literally, he had 3 out of 4 years number 1 overall pick, and Kyrie Irving is the only number 1 overall pick that he has. And Kyrie Irving is the only number 1 overall pick out of those 3 that would even deserve to be the top 15 pick of their drafts if you redrafted them right now. Dion Waiters would be 12 to 15. The other guy they took, I can't even think of his name now. He's not even in the league 2 years later, right? And that's my point. So and I'm not saying Griffin was a good GM outside of he got lucky and got LeBron. Because what did I say the day that LeBron got there and they traded Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love? I would have never traded Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love in the sense of this exact day was going to come. LeBron wasn't going to be there forever, and even if LeBron was going to stay there for the rest of his career, the rest of his career wasn't ever going to be as good as the first 3 years he was going to be there in Cleveland. So I was on the sense of keep Andrew Wiggins. This would solve your Paul George or Jimmy Butler issue because you wouldn't have Kevin Love on a $21 million contract. You would have Andrew Wiggins on a $6 million contract right now. You would have so much money. You would still have more draft picks. There would be so much more open right now. And chances are, does Andrew Wiggins play as well as Kevin Love? No. But chances are you get that production from somewhere else because you have the cap room over that time. That's a different conversation for a different day, I guess. Yeah, you've checked out, I see. So you're done on the NBA?
25 minutes ago on the Cavaliers.
All right, so something you don't have to talk a whole lot about. I want to end this with the MLB. The Rockies right now are the most surprising team in baseball. Them and the Diamondbacks are tied for the NL West with, I think LA is only a game or 2 behind them as of this recording. On Sunday, something really cool happened. Nolan Arenado of the Colorado Rockies hit a cycle, which is a homer, double, triple, home run. I already said homer, but it's a single, double, triple, home run in the same game. And it doesn't have to be in any order as long as you hit all of them.
Yeah.
He had everything except the home run going into the 9th inning. He was tied at 5, runner on second. He hit a home run to win the game.
Yep.
That's awesome. They're playing a really big series as of this recording with the Arizona Diamondbacks. The thing I wanted to bring up with the Rockies is whatever happens in that series, it's going to be them, and this weekend they're playing the Dodgers, who is only a game behind them. So those 3 teams are in the mix. I think the Rockies-Dodgers series this weekend, everyone watching this recording, make sure you just check up on that if you want some baseball. I wanted to bring that up. The last thing I wanted to bring up with baseball, Anthony Rizzo on, I want to say it was Sunday night, maybe it was Monday night. They were playing, the Cubs were playing the Brewers. It was a fly ball to the outfield. He tagged from third, went to run home. Now, we used to see back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, up until Buster Posey got ran over and tore his ACL, you used to see players running from third, and when the catcher had the ball in his glove, just getting barreled over. The catcher would just get absolutely run over, and if they held onto the ball, the person was out, and if they didn't, the ball fell free, and the person touched home plate, the person was safe. That's just how it was, right? Well, Buster Posey was a top 5 player in the MLB, was a catcher, did that a couple years ago, got his ACL torn in I think it was April or May, so he missed the entire rest of the season. And the Giants, who won the World Series the year before, didn't even make the playoffs that year. So the owners all got together and voted 1 run is not worth that. It's not worth losing your best player in case he is your catcher for the rest of the season and winning the World Series one year and not making the next year because you don't have your next player. Obviously, that wasn't the only reason, but that's the biggest reason. Anthony Rizzo the other night, fly ball, went barreling home. Catcher got the ball. He ran the catcher over. Catcher wasn't hurt long term, just missed the rest of the game, but he was fine for the rest of the game. Held on to the ball, called him out. There's been a big debate in baseball. The rule would say you're not supposed to do what Rizzo did. But the umps have kind of more or less been, as long as you don't leave your base path, we're still okay with contact, and we're not going to automatically call you out. If the catcher loses the ball, they're still supposed to automatically call the runner out on that play.
That's dumb.
The umps said they're not going to comply with the rule of the MLB. That's why they're okay with Rizzo doing what he did. The players...
So they're okay with the contact?
The umps are, yes.
I'm fine with the contact.
The players of the MLBPA...
Was he in a path of him sliding?
He took a half a step out of it, but I don't think it was egregious enough for you to... he didn't run around to just run into the catcher. He took a kind of step over there to run the catcher over, but I don't think it was necessarily where he took 2 or 3 steps to the right or the left to run the catcher over. Oh, no, the catcher was in the baseline, yes. The catcher was in the line.
Was he where he was supposed to be, the catcher?
Yeah, he was blocking the plate.
Okay.
It's not a contact sport. And by the definition of the rule, you're not supposed to do that.
Look, when I play baseball, whenever I play baseball,
right?
If I slide going into home plate, and you're in my way, but I get there and you still don't tag me, I'm safe. If you drop the ball, I'm safe. I feel like that's just the way it should be. Like, no, as long as he's not egregiously the slider, purposely trying to take somebody out and purposely hurt him. If he's just doing what he's supposed to do, he's just sliding, and the catcher just so happens to get in the way, and he gets. Then that's just to me. That's just fair game. To me, that's fair game.
He didn't slide. He put his shoulder down. That's where it becomes, because if you're under the age of, I'd say, if you're 15 and over, right? If you're over the age of 15 years old and over, you've seen it a million times of Pete Rose or somebody putting their shoulder down and running a catcher over. The last 3 years have been the player has tried to slide.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not cool with this. I'm not cool with the shoulder.
He put his shoulder down in the play.
I'm not cool with that. I'm cool with the slide. The slide's cool.
Yeah, right.
And if there's contact, somebody gets hurt, it is what it is.
Yes.
If the catcher gets in the way, it's on him.
If he's diving into it.
If he drops the ball, that's out to me. But if you're out here shoulder checking people, like you're in Madden and you're trucking people, that's kind of iffy to me.
That's the reason I bring this up, is because there's a big debate.
But at the same time, I don't like it, but if you do drop the ball, to me,
if he's supposed to be out, he's supposed to be out. But I agree with you.
To me, if you drop the ball, you're safe.
So here's my thing.
But at the same time,
by definition,
you shouldn't be allowed to shoulder check somebody. But if that's allowed to happen and you drop the ball, to me, you're safe.
Now the shoulder checking is not allowed to happen, but the umps are saying they would basically let it go in the sense of if it was still in the base path. Here's my thing. And the ump got bailed out on that play. It's the first time since this rule has been in effect in 3 years that a player has actually tried to put his shoulder down and run somebody over. To the players' credit, that's the first time in 3 years. So one, I want to shout out to the players, because out of all these unwritten rules and out of all the stuff that's happening in baseball, the one thing they did follow was when the MLB changed it for the reasons of concussions and injuries, the players have followed. This was one where Rizzo felt like that run was important enough that he was going to take the fine or the suspension or whatever it was to try to get that particular run, because he was taught probably when he was 7 years old, run the catcher over and try to get to the plate, and just didn't register. My thing is, it's not a contact sport. By definition of the rule, he wasn't supposed to do what he did. I don't think I agree with the rule, but that's the rule. And it's to protect the players, it's to protect the catcher, it's to protect... They don't wear padding. They're not. This isn't football. This isn't hockey. Like the basketball and baseball has tried to take all contact out of it for this exact reason, for the injury reason, for the concussion reason, for all this other stuff. And if you're out by 2 steps, yeah, back in the day, does make for a cool scene that when the catcher had the ball and Pete Rose was still 4 steps away from him, you still didn't know if he was going to be out or safe. Like that was used to be a cool scene. It's still not healthy to have a Johnny Bench be out for the rest of the season because he got ran over in an All-Star game, even though he had the ball 4 steps before Pete Rose got to him. Do you know what I mean? So, for protection of the players, reasoning of the rule, They signed off on it. The players, the MLBPA signed off on it. For that alone, I don't agree with Rizzo doing what he did. But it's because I don't agree with the rule. I think I understand what he did, and I think I'm okay with what he did. I think it's just I don't like the rule on more of it. But the rule's there, so don't do it. And I don't agree with the umps basically blatantly saying, even though the rule says this, we're going to do this. I think, as a fan who has been yelling for consistency in the 4 major sports, in the 4 major championships, year in and year out, and all the playoffs year in and year out, even though it is just a June play, I would like to see them still be consistent, and if the rule states do this, then you got to do it. I think the best example is I don't want to see fighting taken out of hockey, but at the end of the day, one day fighting is going to be taken out of hockey, and it's not going to be a 5-minute major. It's going to be a game misconduct, and you're going to get kicked out of the game for fighting in a hockey game.
That hasn't happened yet.
I'm not going to necessarily agree with that when they do it.
They're
way behind with that. And I'm not going to necessarily agree with kicking a player out for the rest of the game for fighting, because I'm used to it being a different way. But at the end of the day, when the rules state that way, that would be basically the refs of the NHL saying, well, we're just going to put him in the box for 5 minutes and not kick him out. Even though the rule says we're supposed to kick him out, we're going to do it the old school way because that's the way we're supposed to do it. It's to protect these players, and the rules are put in there for a reason, and it's not put in there. The MLB's purpose of making rules is partially to entertain us and partially to protect the players. So if it's not to entertain us, it's only to protect the players. This is obviously to protect the players, and the umps are basically on the side of, well, we're in the entertainment business. And I don't think I necessarily agree with that. Look, it's a weird line to fall on because I think half the play... Look, the guy who threw the ball from the outfield of the Brewers actually said he agreed with Rizzo running over the catcher, even though it was his own catcher. Catchers and managers alike are all on the other side of it saying Rizzo should have never run him over. So it's an interesting debate. It's an interesting thing to hear from people across the MLB. It's interesting to hear from somebody who doesn't watch the MLB on a day-to-day basis. And I don't think it's something everyone's ever going to agree on in the first place. I do think 20 years from now, because of the way the rule's written and the way that 7-year-olds are playing baseball today, because of the way the rule is written, there is not going to be a collision at the plate. That's just it's not going to be part of baseball. But I do think we're going to live in a weird realm for the next 3 to 5 years of players like Rizzo, who from the time he was 7 years old was taught run over the catcher. And to Rizzo's side, Rizzo is almost as big as Gronk. So to him, they were telling him, no, just barrel over that catcher. The ball will fall out of his glove 9 out of 10 times. You know what I mean? Exactly. So it's interesting.
And I mean, I'm of that mindset. I mean,
right?
Not necessarily. I don't.
Because that's what we were taught.
I'm not about like I said when I played. I wasn't about trying to shoulder tackle somebody necessarily. But I mean, if there's contact and they drop the ball, that's all that matters.
It would separate the ball from the player. It was always separate the ball from the catcher.
I'm safe and I got a point. So. Yeah.
It is interesting. It's different. We will see about it moving forward. I don't want to get your take on it just because I've heard so many different takes on it. And I don't think there is a right one. I don't think my take of I don't like the rule, but I do understand why he did it is necessarily the best. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I do know that 20 years from now we're not going to see this anymore. It won't be a problem. But it's interesting, and it was something that was brought to my curiosity. So... Not much left. I know we'll probably be going on our summer break here soon from JD Sports, but we do have next week, we have the draft to cover. Free agency in the NBA will be opening up soon, and we'll probably have a little bit of NFL to start talking about as we get closer to training camp. I'm sure the MLB will have something.
Yeah, definitely.
And I could always throw soccer or golf in there. I mean, I didn't talk anything about the U.S. Open because, well... most people just wouldn't recognize the names I was about to pronounce, so I completely skipped the U.S. Open. The U.S. Open was fun over the weekend, but it for golf. But
yeah. I mean,
the 5 guys at the top are not recognizable enough for me to just point out to our casual fans. So.
And I'm sure because the obvious story that we didn't talk about was McGregor, Mayweather, but
I was gonna say
sure we'll talk about it.
I was gonna add that
extensively.
We'll get into that.
What's that? The end of August.
There's enough
we'll
for
be
you
back
and
before
I
that
to talk
starts.
to, right? There's enough but we'll definitely be back next week. I would say to wrap up the draft.
I would just say in regards to the Mayweather McGregor, I admit it. I said it wasn't going to happen.
Me too.
From a money perspective, it makes sense.
There was too much money for it to not happen, which we both jumped to that side at some point.
I don't like it. 2, and
I don't like it either.
The other thing that
I don't like it either.
I can't stand is certain people on my social media, one that is fraud and about, oh, well, I'm so hype about this. Well, no, you're hype about the pro wrestling aspect of it, which exposed yourself, number one. Number two, the actual boxing event is, 3-4 weeks later?
Oh, yeah, Triple G and Canelo are going to be the much better boxing match.
If you're hype about this McGregor-Mayweather thing, but you're not hype about you're talking more about the Canelo, Jesus Christ, you're talking more about the Mayweather-McGregor thing, but you're not talking about Canelo versus Triple G. Bless you. To me, you're a fraud. 1, 2, you're hype about the pro wrestling, which most of these people hate pro wrestling. So shout out to those people on my social media page, because I've already seen it already in this past week, and it sickens me. And there's so many times I just want to call people out, but I'm ignoring it because it speaks for itself to me. You're frauding yourself in both aspects to me. It's funny to me. And it's also sickening. And saying that, am I going to watch it in some capacity?
Oh, we're definitely watching that.
Am I putting money towards it?
No.
Hell to the no. But I will be watching it. But I already know what to expect, which is a shit show.
The thing I wanted to say about it was...
it's going to be a joke.
The reason I didn't cover it, one, is because you and I have the similar feelings on it. So when we do talk about it eventually, the fight itself, we're not going to have much to say about. But two, because everything that is going...
It's going to be a joke. It's wrestling.
We're going to cover it, but I was just going to say...
It's Hogan versus Flair. It's just trash talk.
Everything. The thing I was really going to say about it,
and then when you watch the wrestling match with Hogan and Flair, it's like, that really wasn't that good. That's what it's going to be.
Everything I was going to say about it was... what you hear coming out of either one's mouth was
bullshit.
Was probably written by the other one to say to them, because...
They've been talking crap for...
This isn't... to your point, this isn't a boxing match. This isn't two guys who hate each other. This is two guys trying to get a payday who are going to say whatever they possibly can say to hype up a fight that isn't real.
And what did McGregor say when he got his ass knocked out? Leading up into that fight where he got knocked out, he was all the same thing. And then when he got knocked out, he was the most humble, respectable, I'm going to hug you after the fight.
It makes sense for Floyd to be the only one who is on the humble side of this right now, where Floyd's like, oh, I respect him, the fighter, I respect him. This. It only makes sense for Floyd to be the only one on the humble side. It will make sense for McGregor to be on the humble side after the fight.
And I like McGregor too, but come on, man.
And when it comes to the fighters,
people out here need to chill.
I like McGregor the fighter. I like McGregor the person. I like Floyd the fighter. I don't like Floyd the person. You and I, there's no secret. They're not pulling any cover over you and I's eyes. We both know what's going on here.
This is for the money.
Yeah, we both know what's going on here as guys who watch boxing.
You know what's going to happen?
We try to follow the biggest aspects of boxing.
When it's all said and done, and it probably just goes to decision.
Then we drinking beers together.
They're going to hug it out. Yo, you just made me the most money I've ever made in my life. And Mayweather's like, yo.
I'm 15-0.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he might be 40-1-9. I don't want to give it away for the ones who actually think there's a chance.
It's going to be such a joke to me.
While we're talking about it, I know we'll really get in. Does McGregor touch him?
Yeah, he's going to.
Does McGregor actually touch him, or is it planned out that he touched him?
He's going to touch him. It's not going to be significant.
Yeah, I agree. We'll definitely...
I'm glad that we said that, because we know Mayweather's going to run.
Yeah, that's all he does. That's the point of... That's kind of been his career.
Dude,
the man's never touched the mat for a reason.
Mayweather versus Pacquiao was how much?
70. I think 70 million. Well, that was base.
No, for pay-per-view.
Oh, 700.
It was $100.
Yeah.
For pay-per-view. To watch it.
I thought you meant the payout for both of them.
No, I'm saying to watch.
Yeah, this will be 120.
And how big of a disappointment was Mayweather versus Pacquiao? Oh, we just forgot that? An actual boxer who was boxing Mayweather? We just forgot that? And now I'm supposed to buy into...
Mayweather has never touched the mat. Conor McGregor has as many boxing matches as I do in my life.
But I'm supposed to be really excited, and all these frauds on my social media.
McGregor has as many boxing matches as I do, and apparently from somebody who watches the UFC told me that McGregor is a half decent boxer for UFC, and I laughed.
He's
I don't know.
I don't even know. No, I wouldn't even say he's a half decent boxer. He's got a couple one-hit knockouts.
He has as many boxing
matches. So does Ronda Rousey. Is Ronda Rousey a boxer?
He has as many boxing matches as I do.
Well, I would pay to see Ronda Rousey versus Mayweather about 2 years ago, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, but I think we would all agree Mayweather still wins that.
That was more for the LOLs on it.
Right, but you know what I mean? But like,
I just want to see her hit him.
And that's my point, is like, the man has never touched the mat.
Point being, shout out to all those frauds on my social media accounts that I've seen for the past week. You make me sick.
We do have a lot
even
to get
these
into with that. We will
UFC
talk about
experts
that.
and boxing experts on my social media.
You did say something to me before the show. That's my fault. I dropped the ball on that. You did say something to me before the show about that, and
I just want to say something really quick, and it turned way longer than I wanted it to. And I
re-skipped it because we both felt the same way. Keep going.
No, it just went way longer than I even wanted it to.
Because we're going to have a lot to say with it, but keep going.
No, that was the end. Shout out to these frauds on my social media accounts. Because it's a joke to me, and it should be a joke to you. And you're a joke of a person if you're seriously hype about it, but you hate on pro wrestling, but you hate on... But you're not excited...
This is pro wrestling.
But you're not excited about Triple G versus Canelo. But you're not excited about McGregor's actually big fights with, like, Nate Diaz or whoever. But you're excited about this. You're a fraud, and I hate you.
Yeah, you and I...
This is WrestleMania. This is a WrestleMania match. Just put this on WrestleMania.
This doesn't excite me.
This is WrestleMania 45.
This doesn't excite
Mayweather
me.
versus McGregor.
I'll watch it.
I'll be the special guest referee.
I'll watch it, and I'll be happy to watch it because everyone else in the world's going to watch it, and I'm going to want to see what Twitter wants to troll before Twitter starts trolling, but
It sickens me because I know I'm going to watch it.
Oh, we're going to watch that together. I already have a spot for us to watch it at where we don't going to pay no money, but...
Without no drama with no females, they ain't going to show up. Facts.
There might be females there.
They ain't going to show up. They supposed to show up. They ain't supposed to show up.
Oh, no.
Oh. Thank you for watching. I'm Dwight. That's Jared.